Hello and welcome to another video. In this one, we're going to be talking about litellm, the package that was compromised. I'm going to tell you how it happened, and then the functional, like how it actually works, how the little vulnerability works, and how you can prevent from being affected by problems similar to this. But anyway, let's jump into it. Okay, so we're talking about litellm. And version 1.82.8. It's also version 1.82.7, but the attack in that version works slightly differently. Let's talk about how it happened in the first place. So if you don't know litellm, I don't know litellm, because why would I use an LLM package? But I assume it is a lightweight LLM. I don't know, man. I don't use this package. But yesterday, as of the time of recording this, this was posted, which was the initial find of this vulnerability. And they found that the PyPI releases of this package were compromised. Only the PyPI releases, not the source on GitHub, and apparently not the source, or not the Docker images that they also provide, just the ones on PyPI. And there's a whole bunch of details about how, like, what it searches for and steals, which is a whole lot. Like, you know, you might as well assume every credential you have on a machine is compromised at this point, because it was very thorough in all of the things that it looks for. If I had to guess, the payload of the script was probably written with an LLM, so it probably was pretty thorough on all the various credentials and other stuff that it would find. But yeah, so if you're affected by this, like, rotate everything. Assume everything is compromised. Blah blah blah, and then it sent the payload to an external URL. Interesting note about this as well, this domain looks super legit. Well, .cloud is kind of sketchy, but so is .ai. But they sent all of the data, they exfiltrated the data to this external domain, and this external domain both looks very similar to the real one, which is litellm.ai, but I believe this library also contacts the internet normally, and so they maybe picked a library that's specifically likely to connect to the internet, to be in a place where it's more likely to be able to exfiltrate. I don't know. Also, I don't use this library, so it's possible that it doesn't go to the internet, but I was reading somewhere that litellm.ai is the real domain and not this one. So anyway, it actually seems pretty reasonable that you would see this, you know, a sysadmin might see this in their logs and be like, oh yeah, that's legit. That sounds like the other thing that we allow listed. Maybe the new version move domains or something, blah, blah, blah. But I found that really interesting. Okay, let's talk about how this library got compromised in the first place. And the reason for that is actually sort of a chain from another vulnerability that happened a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago, Trivy, Aqua Security's Trivy tool, which is a security tool, which is a tad bit ironic that a security company gets popped, but you know, it is what it is. All software is broken, including security software. But this security scanning tool was, I believe, one of the maintainer accounts was compromised, and then malicious code was uploaded to this, and then anyone that was using this blindly, like this litellm project, downloaded malicious code that also probably did something similar to all of this credential stealing here. And this script here just downloads the public key and then adds the apt repository. To note, you probably should be a little bit worried about just blindly installing apt repositories and also downloading the signing key from the same place that you're getting the repository from, just because, you know, if one is compromised, both are compromised. Like, you're not actually externally verifying that this is the public key that you expect, and you know, good way to get on. Anyway, so this was in this, and that was run through Circle CI through this security scans.sh script. And this Circle CI script had access to a number of secrets in its environment. Among those was a PyPI publish token, this PyPI publish password variable right here. I believe, and I don't think the maintainers have confirmed this yet, but given all the things that were compromised, including the account of one of the maintainers, I believe this Circle CI configuration also had access to a bunch of other environment variables that aren't used in here at all, including a GitHub personal access token and something else. I forget what the other thing was. But the important ones are the GitHub personal access token and the PyPI publish token, because this meant that the attackers could publish to PyPI as the maintainer, and it also meant that they could manipulate the maintainer's account. They used this mostly to deface the repositories, from what I understand, and not to actually do anything malicious with the account, but that was what it was doing there. All right, let's talk about the functional part of this vulnerability. First, we'll talk about, I guess, 1.82.7, which is a little bit less interesting. In .7, the attack worked by import side effects. So you had to actually import this library for the payload, or for the vulnerable code to run, or the attacker code to run. And so, yeah, the .7 vulnerability, I think, is less interesting. The .8 vulnerability uses a very clever technique, which I've actually already covered in a YouTube video 4 years ago, which is PTH files. They are slightly evil, but also slightly cool. I've used them for I think, good in a bunch of places, and I guess they're used by setup tools, they're used by a bunch of other things, but I'm going to show you briefly how they work here. We're just going to set up a virtualenv and activate it. If we look in vm python site packages, we actually already have a PTH file. This is the one that's shipped with virtualenv, and I believe virtualenv does this to patch some stuff. Oh, it just imports this library that has the patches in it, maybe. Yeah, it does some stuff to hack up distutils and adds a metapath. It does some sketchy stuff to make distutils work correctly in a virtualenv. But let's talk about how path files work. So they have two main uses. One is to add directories to sys.path. That's not what's being done here. The other is, if the lines in a path file start with import, it will be evaled. So for instance, it'll be evaled, and it'll be evaled on interpreter startup, which is important here. So all you had to do to be vulnerable to this package here is have it installed and start Python, which makes it a lot more likely to trigger. So I'm just gonna make foo.pth here. I'm gonna put import os, and I'm gonna print hello world, just to show you an example of how these things work. And now anytime that I start Python, I actually ran twice here. I don't know why it ran twice. I feel like it shouldn't have run twice, but here we are. That's weird. Why did it run twice? It's super weird. Anyway, that's probably for another day. I guess we could put a raise statement and figure out why, but yeah, you can see here that the code, just by putting code in site packages in this PTH file, it's run as part of startup. Now I promised you I would show you a slightly less evil way of using this. I made this silly package. Oh my god, it's just gonna print hello world every time I do this. What is it? Dict unpacking at home, and then I made this joke package, which I also have a video on. Anthony writes code dict unpacking. Is that gonna find it? Yeah, I want to watch that video for more details about how this works. But anyway, Python has dictionary unpacking due to well, this special comment, but also a PTH file that registers an encoding, and you can read more about it in that other video. But where is it? Oh, it's I think I hoped it would run earlier, but you can see this looks like nefarious code here. Import sys exec. Yeah, we're off to a great start in this file. But yeah, that's the basics of how this hack, how it happened through a secondary vulnerability as a result of this trivia repo through their Circle CI configuration. The attackers published to PyPI. Oh, I wanted to talk about one other really interesting thing about this, which is the communication that happened around this, because I actually think this issue is really good. It's obviously been edited by the maintainers to have more and more details over time, but I think the initial report was actually really, really good by this individual. But the attackers used compromised accounts to post hundreds and hundreds of nonsense, what looks like LLM messages, but they're all about, there's like 5 unique ones. So it's pretty clear that it was just a script that like randomly chose a bunch of them using a bunch of compromised accounts. But this made it really, really difficult to discuss this issue because, well, if you actually just load this page, most of the discussion is hidden behind this like show more button somewhere. This is the stuff at the bottom. But a lot of the interesting discussion is in these 600 comments here, which, you know, because of these hundreds of spam comments, it's actually really, really annoying to follow the discussion I have here. So I assume it's intentional, and it looks it looks very funny to me. But yeah, bots doing bots things, I guess. The last thing that I want to talk about is like, how do you prevent something like this? And this is something where, you know, it's about how to harden a system, a production system, and how to limit your surface area of attack, and how to vet your dependencies, and those sorts of things. A few things could have gone a long way to prevent this from having significant impact. One of them that I usually recommend is not allowing your production systems to access the public internet. And I know that's really difficult, and it's a lot of work to get to that place, but when you're in that place, attacks like these mean nothing to you, because even if you've installed the vulnerable package, it can't exfiltrate the data because it can't reach the public internet. And I know that's, you know, cutting off all internet is often too extreme, so you can go to a slightly less extreme, which is setting up an egress proxy, a proxy to the public internet, where you specifically allow list domains that can go out, and carefully, you know, keep track of which public APIs you're dealing with, and, you know, sandbox your environment. Other things that you can do here is pin all of your dependencies if you're an application. I have also made a video on that. You can watch this one as well. When should I pin deps? Never and always. And I go over strategies to do that there, and like how I approach this. Generally, again, you probably don't want to be grabbing your signing key and the actual data from the same place. You know, anytime you're seeing like curl random binary from the internet, sudo sh-s, like this is ripe for, you know, all it takes is somebody to take over this account, and then, you know, they're installing directly from main, they're not even pinning a SHA. Like this type of pattern should raise alarm bells, and I'm sure they see it all over the place here. And this is pip install unpinned package. Like, I feel like there's a lot of similar problems in this, just in this file, and I'm sure in lots of repositories as well, that you kind of want to avoid just randomly installing stuff from the internet and blindly trusting it. You know, use checksums for binaries you download, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, hopefully you better understand this vulnerability, the silly bot spam that happened as a result of it, and a little bit more about these silly little PTH files in Python. Hopefully this was interesting, and see you in the next one.